It's 5 p.m. across India. I'm Tanvi Taneja. We are live from New Delhi and you're watching DD India Global. We'll bring you all the day's big stories from across India and the world. And with me today from London is my colleague, Ollie Barrett. Hi, Ollie. How are you doing this afternoon?
Well, I'm delighted to be with you, Tanvi, as ever, at what is 12:30 p.m. here in the UK, 1:30 across Central Europe. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, the latest from the Ukraine-Russia conflict, a key referendum in Australia to play a major role after a breakthrough on malaria. First, the headlines.
Counter-offensives from Russia and Ukraine continue amid European Union extending aid to Ukraine. Mali in meltdown as militants advance and the United Nations withdraws. 29 soldiers in Niger killed in an attack near the Mali border. A 6.2 magnitude earthquake hits Nepal. Strong tremors felt in North Indian states, including capital Delhi. And Nobel Prize in Physics awarded to 3 scientists for use of light to study electrons. Earthquake tremors were felt in India's national capital, New Delhi, and the adjoining regions on Tuesday afternoon. According to National Centre for Seismology, an earthquake hit Nepal, measuring 6.2 on the Richter scale. Tremors were also felt in North Indian states of Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, and Punjab. Vice President of the Dominican Republic, Raquel Pena Rodriguez, called on the Indian President, Ms. Draupadi Murmu, at Rashtrapati Bhavan in New Delhi. The two leaders agreed to continue exchanges and contacts between India and the Dominican Republic that would further strengthen bilateral ties. The Indian Lower House Speaker, Om Birla, welcomed Vice President of the Dominican Republic, Raquel Pena, in the new building of the Indian Parliament, as both the nations are marking the 25th anniversary of their diplomatic ties. The two leaders discussed ways to enhance tourism, economic and trade relations between the two countries. Talking about the new Parliament building, the Lower House Speaker said that it is a temple of democracy that reflects Indian cultural diversity. He also highlighted the historic Women Reservations Law and the P20 Conference of the Parliament Speakers of the G20 nations this October. The Chief of Indian Air Staff, while addressing a press conference ahead of the Air Force Day, stated that India aims to procure an additional 97 light combat aircraft called Tejas Mark 1A.
The contract for 83 LCA Mark 1As. What we are looking at is now to supplement that contract with 97 additional aircraft. So it will bring the total to about 180 LCA Mark 1As. The contract value will be a little over 1.15 lakh crores, I would assume. The light combat helicopter we had inducted into our arsenal last year, 10 of them. We are looking at signing a contract in the coming year for a total of 156 of them. 66 will be with the Air Force. The value of the contract once again will be somewhere around 45,000 crores is what we anticipate. Apart from that, we had already signed a contract for about 6,000 crores for 70 HCT-40 trainer aircraft. We have in the pipeline the upgrade of the Su-30s, 84 of them. The value of this is anticipated to be a little over 60,000 crores.
The Indian Air Force has also released a video ahead of the Air Force Day on 8th of October. The video showcases India's air defense might. The Indian Air Force is all set to celebrate this special day, keeping in mind their motto of touching the sky with glory. On to Europe now. Amid the conversations for continued funding for Ukraine, the White House says that it's in touch with allies and partners. Meanwhile, the European Union has proposed another €5 billion worth aid package for Kiev. My colleague, Ollie Barrett, is in London. He tracks all the developments of the Russia-Ukraine conflict and also gets us other stories making headlines around the world. Ollie, both sides, Russia and Ukraine, not relenting as of now.
Not at all, Tanvi. Russia claims to have destroyed fuel and aircraft ammunition storage facilities in Ukraine in the past 24 hours, while Ukraine reports an attack on a Russian rocket manufacturing line. Russia's Ministry of Defense says it destroyed 4 Ukrainian armored vehicles and 1 American-made Bradley infantry fighting vehicle. Meanwhile, Ukrainian military intelligence says that the Ukrainian UAVs have attacked Russia's Kh-59 missile production line on Sunday. Well, Moscow claims to have significantly decreased Kiev's combat potential overall after hitting Ukrainian military infrastructure and manpower as well. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu says that Kiev has failed to break through Russian defenses in the areas of Verobovo and Robotyno in the direction of Zaporizhia. Amid speculation that Moscow may need more men in Ukraine, Shoigu says Russia has the required number of people for the conflict. DD India's Dasha Chernashova has more from Moscow.
Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu says Moscow has significantly weakened Ukraine's combat potential, while Ukraine did not succeed in its offensive. Shoigu also emphasized that the General Staff has no plans regarding additional mobilization in Russia. He said that this is thanks to what he described as patriotic position of Russians who joined the defense forces. Since the start of the year, he said over 335,000 people have joined as volunteers or signed contracts with MOD. Russia's finance minister Anton Siluanov said Tuesday that the support of the operation participants and the defense capabilities of Russia are the priority of the country's budget. He said the resources planned for the next year are expected to fully cover the needs of the special military operation in Ukraine. In the meantime, the defense ministry says it intercepted 3 Ukrainian missiles and 2 drones in the Belgorod region on Tuesday. And a border village in the Bryansk region, according to Moscow, has been shelled with cluster munitions, damaging several houses. Dasha Chernashova reporting in Moscow for DD India.
Meanwhile, Ukraine says it destroyed 29 of 31 drones launched by Russia and 1 cruise missile in an overnight attack that lasted for more than 3 hours. Ukraine's Air Force says fires caused by the falling debris due to the damage at a manufacturing facility were quickly put out. Earlier, the governor of the Russian Bryansk region said Ukraine fired cluster ammunitions on a Russian village close to the Ukraine border, destroying several houses. Initial reports suggest no one was injured in the shelling. Ukraine has received cluster weapons from the United States. And more military aid and training for Ukrainian troops was announced after the European Union held a foreign ministers' meeting in Kiev. It was the first time all 27 members of the bloc met outside the EU's borders. Stressing the importance of US aid to Ukraine, meanwhile, President Joe Biden has urged Republicans to honour the deal on government funding, a statement which drew sharp criticism from Mexico. DD India's Megami Lim reports from Kiev.
The European Union on Monday announced a military aid package worth €5 billion for Ukraine after diplomats from the bloc convened in Kiev for historical talks. The EU's top diplomat Josep Borrell also announced plans to train 40,000 Ukrainian soldiers and to carry out special training for fighter jet pilots. The announcements come after the US Congress passed a last-minute funding bill over the weekend that excluded additional aid to Ukraine.
I propose a new bilateral multi-annual envelope under the European Peace Facility of up to $5 billion for the next year in singular. More will come.
US President Joe Biden has urged Congress to negotiate an aid package as soon as possible and said there was not much time.
I fully expect the Speaker and the majority of the Republicans in Congress to keep their commitment to secure the passage of the support needed to help Ukraine as it defends itself against Russian aggression.
Meanwhile, the Mexican President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador on Monday criticized U.S. military funding to Ukraine and called it irrational and urged Washington to invest more of its resources in helping Latin American countries. As the war enters its 20th month, Ukraine remains heavily reliant on Western military aid, but is working to produce more arms locally to reduce its reliance on foreign arms deliveries. Megumi Lim reporting for DD India, Kyiv.
To West Africa now, where at least 29 soldiers in Niger have been killed in an attack by armed insurgents on the Mali border. Niger's defense ministry says more than 100 attackers using explosive devices and suicide bombers on vehicles targeted the soldiers as they were returning from operations against militants. It is one of the deadliest incidents since Niger's military seized power in a coup in July. The junta has announced 3 days of national mourning. Like neighbouring Mali and Burkina Faso, Niger is also battling militants linked to Al-Qaeda and Islamic State. Turkish police have arrested 145 people suspected of having links to Kurdish militants after a bomb attack in the capital city, Ankara. Raids have been carried out in 18 provinces across the country. Turkey launched airstrikes on militant targets in northern Iraq hours after Kurdish militants claimed responsibility for the bomb attack in Ankara. 2 attackers detonated bombs near government buildings in the capital on Sunday. Both attackers were killed. 2 police officers were injured. Sydney residents have kicked off early voting in Australia's highly anticipated referendum on Indigenous rights. Although recent polls suggest a growing level of support for the proposal to bring more Indigenous representation to Parliament, a majority of voters, according to the polling, still plan to vote against it on October the 14th.
Years of consultation with Aboriginal people, they come up with the Uluru Statement, which asked for a voice permanently in the Constitution so that what was best for them only could be discussed and given to government as ideas for government to act on. That's all it is. It's not about a land grab. It's not about having extra privilege or money. It's not about dividing the country. It's about pulling everyone together, using this as the basis, because that's what it is. It's the basis.
Worried about what comes with the package. There's Noel Pearson, one of the advocates for the yes side, has said this is just the voice is just the first door. So it's what else is behind the door that worries me a great deal. I think it brings with it almost a parliament for a particular race, and it'll bring with it quite a big bureaucracy. I don't like to see the country divided according to race. I think we should all be equal Australians, equal in every respect, and not have a special carve-out for one particular race.
Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has confirmed he will contest the presidential election scheduled for December. Sisi, who's been in power since 2014, had been widely expected to run again and secure a potential 3rd term, as constitutional amendments 4 years ago allow him to stay in office until 2030.
I have decided to run to resume the dream in a new presidential term, which I promise will be an extension to our joint efforts for Egypt and its people. I call on all Egyptians to participate in this democratic scene, to choose with their patriotic conscience who is worthy, and may God give it to whomever is more worthy.
With the next session of Japan's parliament set to convene on October the 20th, speculation is growing that Prime Minister Fumio Kishida will call a snap election before the end of this year. The next 2 months will see a debate within government over an economic stimulus package and a supplementary budget bill to pay for it. That could be approved by early December. Next to Slovakia, where the election winner there, Robert Fico, says it will not be an easy process to build a government. Slovak President Zuzana Kaputova has given him 2 weeks to negotiate a coalition government. Fico won the parliamentary elections in Slovakia with nearly 23% of votes after campaigning to end military aid to Ukraine. With no party in majority, Fico will need at least 2 allies to become the next prime minister.
It will not be an easy process, but we will do everything to establish the government of Slovak Republic. You will get all the information you need, but at this moment, please let's stick to the fact that Madam President gave me the task of building a government and gave me 2 weeks.
A second, cheaper malaria vaccine has been approved by the World Health Organization for global rollout. The R21 vaccine was jointly developed by America's Novavax, India's Serum Institute and the University of Oxford in England. DD India's Stuart Smith has more from London.
There was already a vaccine for malaria approved 2 years ago, almost to the day. Researchers say this one should be easier to produce at scale. That's important because this is a disease which infects hundreds of millions of people a year and kills hundreds of thousands, mostly in Africa and mostly children under the age of 5. It's transmitted through the bites of certain mosquitoes and results in a fever, chills and flu-like symptoms. The world's largest vaccine manufacturer, the Serum Institute, will start by producing 100 million doses of the new vaccine per year, and the first batch is expected to be ready by mid-2024. Oxford University's Jenner Institute, which created the R21 vaccine, says it's easily deployable, cost-effective and affordable at only around $2 to $4 per dose. World Health Organization approval means it will be easier for governments and NGOs to get the vaccine into the arms of vulnerable people. Stuart Smith in London, reporting for DD India.
In Bangladesh, the death toll from dengue has risen to more than 1,000 this year, with 11 more casualties over the weekend. More than 2,500 new dengue patients were hospitalized during the same period, according to data released by the Directorate General of Health Services. September saw the highest single-month death toll in history, with 396 fatalities. And with that, Tanvi, I will hand back to you in the studio in New Delhi.
Thank you, Ollie, for joining me here in New Delhi. You're watching DD India Global with me and Ollie. Still to come on the show. Nobel Prize for Physics 2023 announced. The trio win the prize for the study of electron dynamics in matter. And a shootout in Thailand's Bangkok mall kills 3. All that on the other side.
Turning crisis into opportunity, transforming ideas into action, stories of real change, tales of sustainable solution. This series is going to tell stories of such changemakers. Watch Changemakers on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Global. I am Tanvi Taneja. Now let's take you to Abu Dhabi, where a 4-day International Petroleum Exhibition and Conference, ADIPEC 2023, continues to unfold at the Abu Dhabi National Exhibition Centre, where India is emerging as a key player, showcasing innovation and fostering collaboration in the global energy landscape. Under the theme of decarbonising faster together, ADIPEC 2023 has attracted attendees from 164 countries, and India is making its presence felt with a dedicated pavilion. This pavilion serves as a hub for Indian energy companies, researchers and innovators to demonstrate their commitment to a sustainable energy future.
With the new technology for the hydrogen, so we have seen and meet many people who are interested in the hydrogen business and they want to use the hydrogens. So here we are providing the hydrogen systems, all the storage requirement, hydrogen generation requirement, and all the transportation system for the hydrogen.
Representing our products, which is heaters, which could be like this. So these are explosion proof, and we can do heater bundles. It could be for explosive environments, can be with a temperature control system and protection system. So we are here to meet new customers, new partners.
Staying with Asia, 3 people have been killed in a shooting at a mall in Thailand's capital Bangkok on Tuesday. Thai police have allegedly arrested a 14-year-old gunman. The country's Central Investigation Bureau posted an image on its social media handle of the alleged gunman dressed in khaki cargo pants and a baseball cap. The Nobel Prize 2023 in Physics has been awarded to Pierre-Augustin Ferenkov and Anne L'Huillier for their study of electron dynamics in matter. The winners will receive about $1 million. Anne L'Huillier works at Lund University in Sweden. Pierre-Augustin is a professor at the Ohio State University in the US. And Ferenkov is a director at the Max Planck Institute of Quantum Optics in Germany. A total of 117 Nobel Prizes in physics have been awarded since 1901. Let's now take a look at other stories making news around the world. Dense smoke has engulfed Indonesia's southern Sumatra island after a massive forest fire. Firefighters are engaged to extinguish the blazes. The weather department says the country's dry season this year is the most severe since 2019 due to the impact of the El Niño pattern. Taiwan has issued warnings in the wake of Typhoon Koinu, which is expected to bring heavy rain and landfall to large parts of the south and east of the island. Beaches along the southeast coast of the island have been closed. Many flights and ferries to Taiwanese islands have also been cancelled. In Australia, overnight, a bushfire in Victoria grew more than 3 times in size, prompting emergency warnings in parts of New South Wales. A spring heat wave intensified fires in the southeastern region of the country on Tuesday. About 17,000 hectares in Victoria's Gippsland region were on fire due to strong winds, requiring over 650 firefighters. International Coral Reef Initiative, an alliance of countries, has pledged to raise $12 billion to protect coral reefs from threats such as marine pollution and overfishing. Now, in a magnificent twist of fate, the once opulent palace of Iraq's late president, Saddam Hussein, has been resurrected as a haven for knowledge and history. The Basra Library boasts of Iraq's rich archaeological finds. Take a look.
The city of Basra proudly unveiled a library within its cultural museum, housing an impressive collection of ancient manuscripts and books chronicling the country's archaeological treasures. Unveiled to an awestruck audience, the library boasts access to academic sources and publications about Iraq's rich archaeological finds. Mustafa Al-Husseini, the director of Antiquities, proudly flaunted the books that were crafted by foreign and Iraqi excavation teams several decades ago.
It's the opening of the first archaeological library in Basra Governorate. It contains many archaeology books closely discussing antiquities and heritage. These books include rare publications by foreign and Iraqi excavation missions that worked 170 years ago on archaeological sites throughout Iraq and produced opinions, suggestions and interpretations for archaeological phenomena that existed in ancient Iraq.
spanning various epochs of Iraq's ancient history, including the illustrious Sumerian and Babylonian periods. This collection is a first for the residents of Basra, the residents who were previously forced to commute to Baghdad's National Museum or other academic libraries for access to cuneiform texts are now rejoicing in their newfound convenience.
Archaeology books and sources are a few in Basra. In fact, they are almost non-existent. As a specialized researcher and professor at the Faculty of Literature, specializing in the history of ancient Iraq during the Sumerian and Babylonian periods, I was suffering from the lack of sources at the University of Basra or in Basra Governorate in general. So I had to travel either to Baghdad or Mosul to obtain sources.
The reopening of Basra Museum to the public in 2019 after being forcibly shuttered following the first Gulf War in 1991 signals a revitalization of Iraq's cultural heritage. With this latest edition, Basra is set to become a hub for scholars, tourists, and history enthusiasts who wish to explore the deep roots of Iraq's captivating past.
So that's all in this edition of DD India Global. Do tune in at 7:30 in the evening Indian Standard Time for another edition of DD India Global. You can let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, and Instagram at DD India Live. You can also find us online on YouTube at DD India. We will be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja. From all of us here in New Delhi, thanks for watching. Namaskar.